Good morning, everybody. It's Friday morning. It's been a beautiful week for me. I hope it's been a beautiful week for you guys. Welcome in. I want to talk about insulin resistance today. Um, Not only what it is, how it happens, why it's happening, but what you can do to get better from it. Also, why it matters and how you can tell if it's you. So, we're going to go over a lot of information today. This is me. So when I found the system, I had diabetes, I had my eyesight was failing, I had hypertension, I had joints that were failing, I had neuropathy and pain and sleep apnea and all of these things. And so I really started addressing this without realizing I was addressing insulin resistance, because I needed to reverse my diabetes. And you guys, I did not know that insulin resistance was a thing or that it was connected to diabetes. So if that's you, don't feel bad because I didn't know that either. But I needed to lose some weight and I needed to get my diabetes under control. My liver health, all of that stuff was not the focus at the time for my doctors or me, but this is what happens. So, as you're hopping in, has is anybody in here feeling like they need to lose weight? And thanks for the likes, you guys. Do you guys put a 1 in the chat if you feel like I'm struggling with my weight? I can't seem to get it off. I don't talk about weight a lot because I want people to focus on their health. But here's the thing, the weight is the first thing people see. People don't see that you're suffering with the other things. They don't see all of that. And so we oftentimes think about our health and our value in life based on our weight. And so at that weight in the picture above, I was sick. I had a walker, I had a cane. I went from a world champion athlete to having a walker and a cane and disability plates. And I couldn't believe that my life was there. And I didn't understand why doctors and nutritionists and the gym bros and everybody could not help me. They couldn't figure it out. And yet I stumbled on this thing, and in desperation, I was like, "I gotta try it 'cause I'm doing anything to save my life at that point." And lo and behold, I lost the weight that I thought I was never gonna be able to lose. I got the entirety of my health back, reducing my, hypertension and actually reversing it, reversing my diabetes and whatnot. So, this isn't about me. This is just an example of what can happen when you start to understand what the real problem is. So, how many of you I want to do a real quick poll. Okay. So, what I'm going to ask some questions. If you need to lose weight and it's 20 pounds or less, put a 1 in the chat for me, or yeah, just put a 1 in the chat for me. If you need to lose weight and you're thinking, well, it's 20 pounds or more that I want to lose, put a 2 in the chat or just double tap the screen because I want to see where we're at. Almost every day, almost every person I talk to talks about weight as one of the drivers for them trying to get healthy, and yet they can't seem to get control of their weight. So, which one is you? Under 20 pounds, put a 1 in. Over 20 pounds, put a 2 in the chat for me. Let me know where you're at and how we can serve. So again, although I don't want people to focus on their weight, it's what we are focused on. So I was able to go from the picture on the left to the picture on the right way easier than I ever thought. And no, it didn't take more crazy workouts. It didn't take me going to the gym more because I had been going to the gym 6 days a week, 3 hours a day. Now that was before I got this heavy, but as my body deteriorated, I couldn't work out like that anymore. But I was still working out, doing everything I could. I was embarrassed that I had to take the elevator at the gym because I couldn't walk up and down the stairs, and my health was failing. So I've lost 55 pounds, but I have a number of people who've lost 180 pounds or 190 pounds or 120 pounds, and they've all done it in 8 to 18 months without taking medications. So, you guys, I didn't see anybody type in if they have to lose weight or what they want to lose. So we're just going to go with the idea that most people that I talk to have 20 or more pounds to lose. If that's you, stick with me because I'm going to explain why the weight is coming on and how you can actually finally address it. Okay, so another question is, how many of you have heard that in order to get your metabolism, that thing that's going to burn fat, you have to get it ramped up, you have to eat every 2 hours. So eating every 2 hours is the cure, according to many people on here, right? So it's really not the cure, though. When we're eating every 2 hours, we're actually causing more of the problem. So let's take a look at what's really going on. Let me get this one. Oh, nope, that's not the right one. Whew, you guys, it's warm in here, or it was warm, so I had the AC on. So what most of those people are teaching you, telling you, is that in order to lose weight, you have to go into a calorie deficit. And so there is some reality to the law of thermodynamics, and yet there are many, many doctors out there like Dr. Giles Yao, Dr. Fung, Dr. Bickman, who are talking about the fact that just as important, if not more important, for us losing weight is not just the calorie deficit, but it is how we take in those calories and what they do to our hormones. And that's where insulin resistance is coming to play. Let's get there. Okay. So if you look at your sources of food, if you look at something that's the same amount of calories and you have an egg, which is about 20 calories and 8 grams of protein, or you could have this rice cake with all the stuff, chocolate chips, oats, all of that, but it's 200 calories and the same amount of protein. Which one is going to be healthier for you? Yet a lot of these diets that we're talking about, they tell you to slow down on the fats and the proteins. But here's the thing, the food on the left is going to spike your insulin. I'm going to explain insulin resistance in a second, whereas the food on the right is only going to minimally spike it. And that's more important than the total calories in there. However, when we're eating these processed foods, we're getting way more calories than we need. It's a a big misnomer that we have, that we need to cut calories. So we do. Let's talk about how we're eating way too many calories for sure. But one of the problems that we see when we talking about all this is high cholesterol. And so the same thing that's causing you and that's cholesterol buildup from. You guys have been told probably that you get it from eating too much fat. That came from a doctor named Ansel Keys, and that was over 70 years ago. And when he first started supposing this, because one of our presidents had a heart attack, there was no scientific proof or data or studies that showed that our dietary fat was causing the kind of fat that was causing heart disease. So they rolled with it. And now let's talk about that. How many fat-free, low-fat products do you see when you go to the grocery store? Like when I go to the dairy part, which I don't do a lot of dairy, but when I go in there, it's like fat-free yogurt, fat-free sour cream, fat-free this, fat-free that, and our milk has gone from whole fat down to like 1% because that's healthier for us, right? But what they're not telling you is that the sugars in all of those foods are what's causing your high cholesterol. So I want you all to understand that sugar is really the problem and not those fats. And we're going to talk about what fats in a minute. But really the root of the problems are insulin resistance. So insulin resistance, you guys, you hear all this talk about it. And if you haven't heard about what it is, that's fine. We're going to talk about it right now. In today's modern food environment, we're eating foods that are bagged, boxed, packaged, and we're just not getting in the nutrition we need. It's actually giving us more sugar because foods are broken down. That excess sugar that we get in our system then cues the body to create insulin, and insulin is a transport system for that sugar. Now, insulin, it can get protein into cells, it can get sugar into muscle or into fat cells, but insulin's predominant thing that we're going to talk about is how it deals with sugar. Because when sugar raises in our bloodstream, glucose in our bloodstream, it good morning, Renee. Good morning, Jake. Welcome in, you guys. So when we raise the glucose or sugar in our bloodstream, and we have this rise in insulin. What insulin is really trying to do is take that sugar out of the bloodstream and pack it into our cells that need it. Sugar is energy. We just need energy in our cells, and every single cell needs this energy. So insulin's like, I'm going to come out and I'm going to grab all the sugar and I'm going to get it into the cells. I'm going to do a great job, because we don't want the sugar sitting in our bloodstream. It makes our blood thick and sticky and damaging. But the problem is that we're doing this so often that insulin now faces this challenge. It's a challenge for insulin, because it's like, I'm just doing the job that I'm supposed to do. I'm out there, I'm trying to deliver this energy, but it goes to the cells, and the cells knocks on the door of the cell, and the cell's like, yeah, not today, insulin. You're kind of annoying. I don't want any more of you. Some cells are getting sick because of the inflammation and oxidation that's going on. And so they're just like, ooh, if I take in more energy, I'm going to die, because it's going to feed that inflammation in my cell. So no, thank you. Now insulin's carrying this package and it just can't deliver it anywhere. So where does it go? Well, it goes into your fat cells. You know that thing that in that picture of me in a minute ago? That's what happens when we have too much insulin, because we're eating too much food that converts into sugar too quickly, right? So this diagram kind of explains that. We eat, it goes into our bloodstream, it creates this need in our pancreas to produce insulin. And this is where it's a difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetics. Type 1 cannot produce insulin, so it cannot deal with the blood sugars. Type 2 can, so it's continually increasing the amount of insulin in the bloodstream. But type 1s, oh my gosh. So I'm being jammed up over on TikTok again, because even though this is my presentation, they're saying it might not be real. So we're just gonna roll with it, guys. Sorry. Do me a favor, and if you know somebody who needs this information, share it out, because TikTok is throttling it right now. Love, hate relationship with TikTok. But all right. So when we have that insulin and it now can't get into the cells, it's going to start packing it full in your fat cells. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. That's why I started with the picture of me being like 55 pounds heavier, because that was my problem. And until I understood that, I couldn't lose the weight. And it doesn't take a lot to figure it out, you guys. So I'm going to give you some clues that this is you, besides that obesity, because obesity is not always the only indicator. And you may not even be obese and still be insulin resistant. But when the insulin is delivering that sugar to the fat cells get really protective too. Every cell in our body wants to survive. They're like, I do a good job for the body. I want to survive. And so the fat cells start to be like, well, if you keep pumping me full of this energy that I'm storing in the form of fat, I'm going to explode. I'm going to be destroyed. And I don't want that happening. So now your fat cells are starting to become insulin resistant as well. And what happens then is that blood sugar either leaks back out into the bloodstream or stays in the bloodstream. At this point, now you go to your doctor and your A1C is climbing, your fasting blood sugars are climbing, and your triglycerides are climbing, or your LDL is climbing, and your HDL is going down. And those are all signs that you've had insulin resistance for a long time, but now they call it pre-diabetic or diabetic. So it's all in one long chain, and it's better to address it in the beginning than wait till you get to diabetes, which is where I was. So how do we get rid of it? And let's first off, well, we're going to talk about how you can tell it's you besides this clue, right? We need to understand that getting our insulin down, a hormone that actually just delivers sugar to the system, is key in us getting better. But before I talk about how you can tell it's you, I'd love to share with you. Good morning, Irma. Good to see you this morning. You guys, let me know what's resonating with you and what's not, what you need to hear more about. If I go through something and you're like, that didn't make sense, I need to hear, can you put that a different way? Let me know, because I love to help you guys out. And welcome in Jubilee and Trimble and Bill. So you guys, now insulin. We've talked about how it goes from being high sugar to high insulin to high fat storage in the body to now you're diabetic, pre-diabetic. Okay. But how do you tell if it's you? Because along the way, there are a number of things that could happen that are going to tell you that you might be insulin resistant. So this little diagram right here is showing a bunch of disorders that are linked to insulin resistance. You're diabetes on there, but you're going to see high blood pressure. You're going to see PCOS. You're going to see erectile dysfunction. You're going to see childhood obesity and the risk for stroke and anxiety and depression and fatty liver. So, wow, that's a lot of stuff, right? If you've been diagnosed with any of those things, you're likely insulin resistant. It's that important. This is why we're addressing insulin resistance now, because if we don't, then those things happen. The weight is great. We want to look and feel better, right? But that's not the only thing. But there are these signs of insulin resistance that can tell you, and you guys, I'm having a hard time with my eyes focusing this morning. So bear with me for a second. If you're overweight or you have a bulging belly, that's a sign. You could be thin and have a bulging belly. That still is a sign. It just means that your fat is being deposited in a place that's internal underneath the muscle wall of your belly and not just on the jiggly places around your arms and legs. It doesn't mean that you don't have excess fat. Your fat's just being stored in a different place. So if your belly is starting to poke out, then that's a sign of insulin resistance, because actually insulin resistance cues your body to store more of that fat called visceral fat that is actually underneath the muscle wall, but it also has mitochondria in it. So it's called brown fat, and it's really a good fat to have, but we're getting too much of it. And it's spiked by this excess insulin. Now it's telling the body to store more of that. But if you think about fat under the muscle wall, what I want you to understand is as that fat grows, what's really happening is you're slowing down the mechanisms or the ability of your organs to work, your liver, your kidneys, your pancreas, your heart, your lungs, your gastrointestinal system all starts to get really impacted by this fat. So as you get heavier and that belly starts to poke out, maybe you're experiencing more acid reflux. There's just no room for your belly to do its job without this acid pushing back up. There's a lot of issues with that visceral fat, and that visceral fat is cued by insulin resistance. So we want to address that. If you're thin everywhere else, but you have a bulging belly, that's one sign, right? But let's move on because I can't. All right, so this is a slide I did, and I know it's kind of hard to read for some of you, but all of these issues are linked to insulin resistance. And I want you to see it's like neuropsychiatric diseases. So maybe you have anxiety or depression, maybe you have brain fog, or maybe you're starting to see signs of Alzheimer's, which is now being called type 3 diabetes. So anybody in here feel like they see themselves on this list anywhere? So that, like I said, stubborn weight that you can't get off, brain fog, fatigue, fibromyalgia, this pain throughout your body, neuropathy, depression, anxiety, headaches, including those migraines that you get. Those headaches and problems happen to be your brain, in most cases, your brain screaming for energy that it just can't get, no matter how much energy you're putting in your face, because we have this problem of insulin resistance. Insulin just cannot get the energy to the brain because the brain becomes insulin resistant at the same time as the rest of the body. So if you see yourself on this list, melasma, skin tags are a couple of the biggest clues that we have insulin resistance. If you have skin tags, you're insulin resistant. If you have dark skin patches called acanthosis nigricans, you're insulin resistant. In fact, by the time you get to the part where you have these dark skin patches, you're highly insulin resistant, and you need to start addressing it, because all the rest of this stuff is going to start happening if it has not already started happening in your body. Now, I'm going to pause for a second, because you guys see these lists and you see all this stuff, and she's like, you're telling me I'm insulin resistant. Why has my doctor never told me that I'm insulin resistant? Because your doctors haven't been educated about it. Why? Now we're going to pause for a second. So when we want to think about our medical system, and I worked in I'm not a doctor, but I worked in medical offices for years, and I was, the person that brought you back and took your vitals and communicated with the doctor and said, that's me. In all of those years, not one doctor talked about insulin resistance. I worked in a hormone clinic, and that doctor did, like, I love her, brilliant doctor. She was working hard to try and figure out what was going on with me. We did all these tests, blood tests, urinalysis, 24-hour urine capture, saliva tests, all of this stuff to try and figure out why I was getting sick and why I was heavy and couldn't lose weight. And this hormone specialist never once talked to me about insulin resistance. So has if you guys, let's see, how do I want to say this one? Like, if your doctor has ever talked to you about insulin resistance, put a one in the chat. But if you've never heard the words insulin resistance, and let's check out how we can get better from insulin resistance from your doctor, if they've never talked to you about insulin resistance, put a two in the chat for me, or tap the hearts. If your doctor's never talked about it, just tap the screen. If they've never talked to you about insulin resistance, because most of us have not been talked to about it. I was educating people all day long, every day on hormones. See, there we go. Your doctors haven't told you. I worked in this hormone clinic. That's all we dealt with. And the words insulin resistance were never spoken in that clinic because that doctor, as brilliant as she was, as amazing as she was, and as many people she was helping, had never been taught about insulin resistance. Irma, I see you. So that was me too. Like, I never got that information, and I worked in medical offices. So then how would we expect the rest of you guys to get that information? So think about that. I'm working in a hormone clinic. I'm educating people every day on their hormones and their health. And we even did weight loss programs that weren't working for me. And my doctor was behind the scenes trying to help me out. And nothing was ever said about insulin resistance. Not once. When the labs came back and when we sat down and tried to figure out stuff that was going on, did insulin resistance ever come up? Okay. And then I had a second doctor that we were like golden girls, best friends. She's now in Washington State. I'm over here in Maryland, and we still have a great relationship. I love her. She happens to be brilliant. And this doctor who loved to do research and figure stuff out for people, that's what she thrived on. Never talked to me about insulin resistance. And now that I've gotten better, she continually writes me and says, hey, like, I can't believe that this simple thing helped you get better. And we have talks about it. But understanding insulin resistance was not even where I started. I was just so desperate that I did this protocol to hopefully help me reverse my diabetes, or reduce it and get rid of some weight. And it did both of those things. Clinically, I'm no longer diabetic. If I went back to the lifestyle I had before, where I was eating all of these unmediated, unrestricted carbohydrates and pumping my body full of sugar, sure, I'd become diabetic again. Anybody will and does, and that's what's happening to us. But now that I understand, and I've just done a couple of simple tweaks to my life without anything strange or weird, I've gotten my diabetes under control. All right, so many of you guys have said you suffer the same way. Doctors haven't told you. So not only have they not been talked to about insulin resistance or educated about it, they haven't been educated about nutrition. How many of you guys feel like your doctor should understand nutrition? Put a one in the chat if you feel like this medical professional that you're going to should understand nutrition and how it affects your body and these diseases. Put a one in if you feel like your doctor should understand nutrition. I want to see that. Yeah, Brahma, thank you. Would you guys be shocked to know that your doctors are not given a nutrition class as a required part of their doctorate? It's optional. And only about 20% of practicing doctors today take even one nutrition class in all that they're studying. That's mind-blowing to me. How do we have medical professionals who, in all of these courses and classes they have to take, are not being required to understand nutrition, how it affects our hormones, how it affects our gut, how it affects everything else that's going on in our body, because all of that's linked to all of these diseases and disorders, yet our doctors are never told about it. They're never learning about it. They're given the opportunity, but let's be real. They have so many other things they have to learn. They even don't view nutrition as the most important thing that they have to do. So they're not taught about insulin resistance and they're not taught about nutrition. And why is that? Well, this is where I'm going to come back. And I had two family members who worked in big pharma for years as well. So now what I do know is that they're all about selling medications. That's their business model. So do you also know that the texts that your doctor is reading in school are funded by big pharma? So if you're told that there's a solution to this that has to do with the food we're eating and it has nothing to do with medications, why would big pharma want you to know that? Because that's going to reduce the sales of their drugs. Okay. And it's just a truth. We all want to, when we're selling something, when we're talking about something, and even me, I'm skewing you towards the more natural solution because that's where I found relief. But we all have this way that we're trying to get people interested in the products. Big pharma though has a stronghold on us in that they're not allowing or educating doctors that this is really the cause of why we're sick. So let's take a look at some of that. The food that we eat is part of the problem, and it starts there. I have this diagram up because I want you to see that what's happened to our food. The picture on the top left is what our carrots used to look like. You guys know they're a root. Well, obviously they're a root. They grow in the ground. But did you know they actually were supposed to look like a root? We have just modified them, changed the structure of them so much that they now are this bright orange looking amazing thing that we love because it's sweet, it's crunchy, it's delectable. I happen to be allergic to carrots, so I don't eat them. But how did they get to that big, plump, juicy part? They stripped out fiber. So we're going to start to talk about fiber. Watermelon. You can hardly see the picture on the top, but you see that picture on the top of watermelon where it has all that white in it and there's very little of the red and there's a lot of seeds. That's what our watermelon should look like. And when we have any food that's in nature that's high in fructose, it's usually wrapped in stuff to slow us down from getting it in. Fructose is a form of sugar that only your liver can process and store. Part of the reason we have fatty liver is because we're increasing this amount of fructose we're getting in, not because fruits are bad for us, but the fruits that we have in today's diet, the fruits that we have that are so modified that they're this watermelon, which you don't see any seeds, you don't see any of the fibrous stuff, you don't see the crunchy stuff, you just see this sugar water in a shell. That's what's happening. That's why we're getting non-alcoholic fatty liver, even in kids, because parents think they're giving their kids fruit as a healthy source, but they don't know that the food industry has stripped out fiber from everything we're eating. Now we have a problem. Now the fructose is impacting us. It's creating more fat. It's storing more fat in our liver, and it's causing a ton of issues. Eat fruit, but eat the right fruits and eat them as a treat. But one thing you should never do, I'm going to stop. Good morning, Bobby. I just saw you pop in, and Trimble. When we have fruit juice, like there's everybody gets really divided, and I agree. Fruit juice has a lot of really great vitamins in it. And it's easier for you to take in a glass of orange juice than it is for you to sit down and eat 8 to 16 oranges. Okay. But the problem is that orange juice has been stripped of its fiber. Now, what fiber does is it encapsulates those sugars and slows down how quickly and how much of them actually get into your bloodstream through the small intestine. So when we've stripped fiber away, like the carrots and the watermelon, what we're really doing is giving that sugar direct access to our bloodstream. Okay, there's no fiber to slow it down, and that's what's happened to us. It's not that our foods are so that eating organic and all of that is so toxic. It's just that it's been changed. And you guys, let's talk about that too. When you look at organic foods, yes, it's probably better to do that, but there's only a small percentage. I think it's like 20% higher that they have to be raised organically or not have these other things to be called organic. It doesn't mean that they're pure from pesticides. It means that they use about 20% less than the other companies to be able to be labeled organic. Um, but in that, when we look at this, also, we want to know that our corn is a grain. You guys, that one blew me away. I always thought of it as a vegetable. You guys tap the screen if you always thought of corn as a vegetable. And if knowing that it's a grain, just like your breads and stuff, is kind of disturbing to you because it doesn't look like a grain now. In fact, that grain then they turn into oil to try and sell you. And that oil, I'm off track, but I want you to understand the oil, those seed oils, those light clear oils in clear plastic bottles. Anytime you see an oil in a clear plastic bottle, that's not a great thing because that means that oil doesn't go rancid. Those oils were developed by uh, Rockefeller as a machine oil, and then they realized because it was made of food products, they could sell it as a food oil. So what you're ingesting with those omega-6 seed oils is machine oil. Okay, so let's move on. But I want you to understand fiber not only reduces the amount of sugar in your system, but it reduces the amount of fat. So I'm going to round back. Again, if you have symptoms like you have hypertension, a blood pressure of 130 over 80 or higher, if you have those skin tags, those dark skin patches, and like my elbow used to have those dark skin patches all the way down to here. They were dark black and they were scaly and it would catch on my clothes. I don't have any of that now. I did not know at the time that it was insulin resistance. I remember scrubbing my elbows, scrubbing my neck because I had dark circles around my neck. I had all of that and I didn't know. So I'm scrubbing, using shea butter, using coconut oil to try and soften the skin up. And nobody, even the doctors I asked, nobody told me that I had too much blood sugar and too much insulin going on. And that's what was causing that. So does anybody else have dark skin patches that you just can't seem to get to go away? In fact, I remember, you guys, this is so bad, and this happens in kids. Before I started this journey, I used to work in soft goods. So I was a designer for ski wear for a while. I worked in, later I worked in a factory where we did riding wear, so like riding tights and jodhpurs and horse pads and stuff. But there was one of the gals that worked with us, her son was about 14, 15, and it was sad story, you guys, sad story time. I was living in North Idaho, and yes, and it doesn't just happen in North Idaho, but she was a single mom raising 3 kids. They were all suffering. And I didn't know it then. I wish I would have, but every single one of them showed signs of insulin resistance. She had, I call them billy goat hairs. That happens with age, but it also happens with insulin resistance. She had a face full of hair. That excess hair growth on the face for women, that's insulin resistance. But not only that, they would have to use the showers at the factory that we worked at because they lived in a station wagon car, parking it wherever they could to live because she was struggling to survive and care for her kids. So they would use the shower. And I remember being appalled because her son would go in and they're all very light skinned and blonde. And he would come back out and this dark circle would be around his neck. And I'm like, dude, you just took a shower. Could you have washed? Right? That kind of judgment has no place for us, you guys. What I now understand is that that dark circle around his neck wasn't that he was unclean, it was that he was already diabetic and had insulin resistance. You know, when you see these signs, that excess hair on the face, that dark skin patches, especially around the neck, under the arms, and the groin, those skin takes, those are all signs that people are insulin resistant and we're missing it. Now that I know, I can't unsee it. I go out places and I see people, I've seen it around people's ankles. I have paint on my hands. Ankles where their socks rub or where their shoes rub. And as soon as I see those dark rings on their ankles or on their knees, I'm like, oh man, they're suffering from having too much sugar in their system and they're getting sick. It's hard to watch. I see it everywhere now. It's like I can't unsee the signs. But two of the other signs are what we're going to call metabolic infertility. So PCOS and erectile dysfunction. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have anything on this particular list, you're insulin resistant and you need to start addressing it because insulin resistance is already messing with your health. Is that understandable? And does anybody suffer with any of those things? But there's more. So we talked about that bulging belly. Remember, and you don't have to be fat to have that bulging belly. But if you have that, you're insulin resistant. Now, a couple of the other things are in your labs, right? If you look at your labs, the panel that you have run every year, and everybody should have this. So after this live, go find your labs and take a look for yourself because you're going to be able to kind of self-diagnose here. And by the way, this information is posted on the National Institutes for Health. It's not just me making up random stuff. But if your triglycerides are high and your HDL is low, that's a sign of insulin resistance. What we really want to understand is where our LDL is, because there's different types and patterns of that low density lipoprotein. Now, a proliferance or excess of LDL type B, which is a small, really dense type of LDL, LDL type A is big and buoyant. That's a clue that we're insulin resistant. So there's a calculation. And by the way, it's in my tab on how to tell here on TikTok. What I want you to do is take your triglycerides and divide them by your HDL. Now, what that does is really give us a better clue as to what that pattern type A to type B is looking like in your body. It gives you a clue of if you're having an insulin resistance problem. It gives you a clue of if you're having heart problems, and it gives you a clue of whether you're having triglyceride or cholesterol problems. So do this calculation. It's simple. Triglycerides divided by HDL, not the LDL, the high density lipoprotein. The number you're looking for should be 1.5 or less. By the time you get to 2 or higher, then you have a problem. If it's 3 or higher, you've got to start addressing it now. So what that looks like is, say you have triglycerides that are at 100 and your HDL is at 50. And by the way, women should be 50 or higher in their HDL and men should be 40 or higher. But that ratio between your triglycerides and your HDL is what you're looking for. So if it's 100 on the triglycerides and 50 on the HDL, you have a number of 2, and that means you're already insulin resistant. Start addressing it. But say the triglycerides were 150 and the HDL is 50, now that resulting number is 3, and that means, whoa, Houston, you have a problem. You need to understand and address it before you get really sick. And I talk about it because that was me. Nobody talked to me about it. I got really sick, lost my eyesight, damaged my heart, lost my gallbladder, lost 3 joints. I don't want that for you guys, okay? So when you have a chance, take a look at your labs and then come back and let me know what your number is. What's that resulting number? Is it, and oh, by the way, if it's 1.5 or less, you're probably safe. Although I've heard musings that some doctors are wanting it to be 1 or less. We're going to say 1.5 or less, and you should be okay. Now there's some other clues, so there's some other calculations in my how to tell, but that one you should be able to do with the labs you already have without any crazy new labs. But understand, we're going to go back to hypertension. One of the biggest clues that you can tell you're insulin resistant is if you have that blood pressure of 130 over 80 or higher. These are all clues. If you see yourself here, that's you. So how many of you guys see yourself in any of these symptoms? Do you find yourself in any of these? But the other couple other things are going to be, do you retain water easily? That was me. That edema, my knees were swollen. Big pharma and the tobacco industries. Yeah, right? Big pharma and the tobacco industries are terrifying to me. It's terrifying to me what happens. So now that swelling is an inflammation response from insulin resistance. Okay. That can go away. I remember when I started this program, my shoes were all made of elastic because my feet would swell so much that I couldn't get them in regular size shoes. I was buying diabetic foot socks, not only for me, but for my mom. And I would joke with her that we should just start our own diabetic foot sock company. But that's not my reality anymore. I was able to toss out all those socks. I was able to wear regular socks again. I'm able to wear regular shoes again. And that was relieving. But now I can see my joints and they're not full of inflammation and pain because I was insulin resistant before and I'm not now. So if you're having swelling and edema, that's a sign. Get it under control. By the way, it's even been linked to lipedema, so which is very different from this other kind of swelling, but it's been linked to that as well. So if you're constantly hungry, and how many of you guys suffer with constant cravings and feel like you just can never get full? That's a sign of insulin resistance. We're going to talk about some of these in a minute. But one of the biggest things that I think most of us suffer from, so give me some clues here, because you guys, that was me. I had chronic fatigue, just like they called it adrenal fatigue. Terrell's amazing. So Terrell Stevenson, I just saw the rest of your name. So we're going to tell you how this is happening and how to get better in just a second. So bear with me. But chronic fatigue or adrenal fatigue is really a sign of insulin resistance. And here's why. Remember that insulin is delivering energy to your cells. And if you can't get the energy into your cells, you're going to feel fatigued in your body and in your brain. Brahma, you too. So I suffered before this. Like, I remember telling my ex-husband for years, he would come home, I'm passed out on the couch, just exhausted, so much to the point that my whole body hurt from exhaustion. And he said I was lazy and all the gaslighting stuff, and he would make fun of me and all this stuff. And I'm just struggling and crying inside. Like, if I could do better, I would. I don't know what's going on. But I would say it felt like somebody stuck a vacuum cleaner to my belly button and sucked all the energy out from inside my body. Now that's kind of descriptive, but does anybody else feel that kind of fatigue? Like somebody just sucked all the energy you should have out of your body and you're just left with this body that hurts and is tired and you just don't know what to do, because that was me. Terrell, we're gonna talk about that too. So with insulin resistance, what's happening is the cells, if they're not getting energy, they're really fatigued because every single cell in the body needs energy. And if we're insulin resistant, that energy is not getting into our cells. And now we have brain fog, anxiety, and we have body-wide fatigue. And as a result, how many of you guys go grab, because for me, it was like my favorite things were a Snickers bar, Mounds, maybe Reese's, right? Those were like quick sugar hits to try and get me energy, or Bang energy drinks, which I couldn't drink anymore because of my heart. But I was searching for, and we've all been told, have a glass of fruit juice, eat something high in sugar to get your energy back up, right? Coke. Now, I was drinking Diet Coke because like healthier, but then I'm drinking that Diet Coke with the Snickers in my mind. I'm like, well, at least I've reduced some of the sugar. Oh my gosh, you guys. By the way, I still have a problem with Diet Coke. It's the fizzy for me. But yeah, yeah, yuck. But Diet Coke, you guys, even though it does not have sugar in it, what happens is that sweetness cues your brain to want more sweetness. Okay. So your body is either burning sugar or it's burning fat, and your brain goes by the cues. Are we getting fat and savory? We want to burn fat. Are we getting sugar and sweet? We want to burn sugar. So that even in those diet drinks that we're drinking, we're cueing our body to be more hungry for the sweet stuff. And then it's causing a problem where we have the Snickers or the Reese's or the whatever, or a bag of potato chips. Okay. Yeah. Can't drink Diet Coke. You know what? It's crazy because I didn't used to like it, but now I can't drink regular soda because it just is so sweet to me. It's just sickeningly sweet. But they're both a problem, right? So I have to really be careful. And original Coke is high in sugar. So let's talk about that. You're getting this big dose of sugar when you're drinking these fruit juices or sweetened drinks, but you're not getting in anything that's slowing down how quickly that sugar hits your bloodstream. And that's a problem, because now you're spiking that energy even, or that need for insulin even more, and yet your cells are still resistant to it. But what you've drunk when you drank original Coke is, I can't remember, like 20 to 30 teaspoons of sugar in one Coke. That's a lot of sugar. If you took your Coke can and took all the liquid out of it and what was left, about half the can would be full of sugar. And that's actually what you're drinking. And so now you're spiking your insulin and your cells are resistant to it. So you should be getting energy, but you're not. And you're creating more of the problem. And that's not just Coke, that's fruit juice. And fruit juice can actually, Dr. Bickman has said he would rather give his kids a Coke because of the glucose form, and that can be digested or stored elsewhere than the liver. But a fruit juice with the same amount of calories gets stored in your liver. All right, so fiber, we haven't talked about that a little bit, but fiber is what really slows down that sugar from hitting your bloodstream. So there's some things that I do for insulin resistance, and one of them is fasting. Okay, fasting improves your weight. It's not, and this is not about fasting this morning. We'll talk about it another time. Fasting is not about calories in, calories out necessarily. It's about addressing hormones. So Coke is cold. Well, I wouldn't call it that, but of the worst of two evils, you might have Coke more than fruit juice. But get rid of them both is what I'm going to tell you. Get rid of them both. If you're going to have fruit, have the real fruit. Get the fiber in. Get all the rest of the stuff that goes around along with the fruit. When you look at those fruits in that side I showed you earlier, the ones that are organic, that are natural, that are the way nature intended for us to have them, are packed with fiber. Now, nature puts fiber, like the tough skin around apples, that crunchy part around apples, that's fiber. The crunchiness in apples is fiber. But how do we go from an apple that's this size to an apple that's this size? We stripped the fiber out as they were growing it to make it more juicy and delectable. Same thing that happened to the watermelon. Fasting, you don't have the energy to run. So that is, Terrell, that is a dysregulation of your energy and your body not knowing how to work without high levels of sugar. And it's like, I'm trying to find the right analogy, but I call insulin a bully. So when insulin is high and we've trained our body to need insulin, we're just training it to need sugar. You don't have the energy to run, go fast. No, I can't. You can't. Okay, so we're going to talk about how you can, Terrell, because we're only talking about a 16-hour fast, and I'm going to explain why. But this 16-hour fast, supported by what I'm doing, and you'll find it way easier than you now think, helps with obesity. It helps reverse your insulin resistance. It helps reverse high cholesterol, hypertension, and inflammation. So you can do it with or without the system that I'm going to talk about. But Terrell, you're perfect. Thank you because I was the same way. My son talked to me about fasting for years, and I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And I know it's probably really good for my metabolism, and I should do it. And then every day I'd try to do it, I would be like, oh, I'm so tired and I'm kind of crabby and I can't make it. And then I would eat something quick, hurry up to eat. And then the fasting was actually working against me because I could never complete it, but I was running to the foods that I shouldn't have to break it. But we can do fasting much easier, and I'm going to explain how in a second. By the way, fiber is part of that cue. The system that I do, run to your front door, to front, fasting, you want me to run 16 hours of running to your front door. I don't want you to run to your front door, Terrell. We're going to talk about it. And you're perfect because I thought that fasting was never going to be possible for me. Sounded amazing. Sounded like it was great for everybody else, but it was not something I could do. And now, don't get scared because I'm not telling you have to do this, but I've done 10-day fasts, not more than anybody else, but I've done 10-day fasts just using this system, and I was able to manage it just fine. So now what I did to get my health under control was this. I have a tea in the morning. The tea, by the way, shuts down those hunger cues in your brain and in your gut. So when that happens, you're not feeling that hunger. And it happens so much so that I have customers. One of them, I remember she was much like you, Terrell. And she was like, Misha, all of this sounds great. And I really want to get healthy. So I'm going to try it. But I'm going to tell you, girl, she's like, I'm going to tell you, I cannot go 16 hours without eating. I am so sugar addicted, so food addicted. There's no way I'm going to make a 16-hour fast. She got her system in, which comprised of the tea and this pre-meal drink that I'm going to talk about. At 1 o'clock, she's texting me and she said, I don't know what's in this stuff. I am always hungry. I never have been able to fast, and it's 1 o'clock and I haven't even thought about food. What is this stuff? Well, the tea actually has a number of components in it that are helping your brain feel satiety because it's actually getting energy to the brain. So now the brain's not saying, hey, I'm hungry, but it's also helping you allow you to use the glucose that's in your system more efficiently, helping you become more insulin sensitive. It helps increase your GLP-1, your glucagon like peptide 1, which is the same thing that those drugs Ozempic and Mounjaro are doing, but in a natural form. It's increasing that by 70%, up to 70% in your own body. So now you're experiencing this satiety. You're experiencing this energy that you've never experienced before, and you're starting to feel better. And fasting now is not a problem for you. Don't let it scare you. Give it a try. Okay. Because I was just like my friend who said, there's no way I could ever fast. In the beginning, I would go 20, 24 hours because I also have ADD, and I would just forget to eat because I wasn't getting those hunger cues. And there was enough in my liver and in my other places that my body was just pulling out all of this energy and utilizing it. That happens when you fast. Fasting should not make you cranky and it should not make you tired. If you're tired or cranky when you're fasting, even in a 16-hour fast, it means you're dysregulated with your sugar and your hormone insulin. So what really is saying something with that inability to fast is that you're already sick and we need to address it. Does that make sense? So with the tea, it shuts down the hunger and it doesn't make me feel like I've got to run for food all the time. And I still every once in a while, the other day I went 20 hours again because I was just busy and I wasn't hungry. I was starting to feel a little hunger and I kept thinking, oh, I need to stop to eat. And I'm like, well, just one more thing and I'll get there. And then I looked at the clock and realized it had been more than 20 hours since I ate. But I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm going to die because I don't have enough energy. In fact, when I train fasted. Here's why. When we're fasting, what we're really doing is allowing our body to switch from burning sugar to burning fat. There's a whole hormonal process that happens. Part of that process is that insulin goes down and now our body's not needing sugar all the time. But in the beginning, yeah, you could experience some discomfort because your body needs sugar, or that's what we've told it, because we're eating every 2 hours. And every time we eat, I want to dispel this because there's some people that are always saying, "Oh, all you got to do to lose weight is cut your calories and eat every 2 hours to keep your metabolism burning." Well, they don't know anything about metabolism because that actually destroys your metabolism. And guys like Dr. Fung and Dr. Bickman, who wrote this book, Why We Get Sick, one of the top metabolic scientists in the world, um, they will tell you that's exactly the wrong thing to do for your metabolism. Every time you eat, you're spiking your insulin. What we want to train our body to do and what we've been built to do is eat and then stop. I'm 60, so I remember coming home from school. And if I wanted to get into snacks, I would be told, nope, you're not getting anything till dinner. You're going to destroy your dinner. We didn't have dessert every night. We had dessert on Sunday after dinner. We did not have dinner to wait for our dessert. There was no dessert. There was no snacks. We would go on long road trips and maybe have some water in the car, but it wasn't chips and candy bars or granola bars or protein bars that we thought we were being told were healthy. We didn't have any of that. So how many times did you come home from school, Terrell, and have your family say, have a snack, dinner's going to be in an hour? 9 years older. Ooh. Well, I'm learning that 60 is not so bad. I hope I still feel the same when I'm 69. I really want to live to be over 100. I got lots to do. So every day, you had snacks every day, Terrell? After school, you had snacks every day? Look, my parents weren't perfect because although they got that part right, you know what my mom used to give us what we used to get for breakfast, and your same generation, probably the same thing, was cereal, toast, pancakes, waffles. During the week, it was most often cereal and some low-fat milk, and put a little bit of sugar on that Raisin Bran and run out the door to school. What happens when you have that kind of meal is that you've just spiked your glucose, giving yourself energy to get out the door. But about in an hour or two, your energy starts to drop and you're super hungry and you don't know why. And your attention starts to fade and your body starts to hurt and you're just like kind of dragging through the day. Now, as a kid, we don't recognize it as much, but as an older adult, boy, that starts to hurt, right? So that's all because our generation was taught wrong. When we look at the old food pyramid and the grains were on the bottom and then fruits and vegetables and then proteins and then fats, they've actually flipped that upside down. Protein is the most important thing, and those grains and fruits and vegetables are on the top, the very smallest part of what we should eat. So we've actually just flipped that food pyramid over as more science has done. We need to understand that even what I'm talking about today in 20 years may change because science is continually thriving and growing and changing and broadening our understanding. As far as today, we haven't heard a lot about insulin resistance because science hasn't studied that. So we've been given a lot of clues that maybe are not absolutely correct for us. But as science is changing, they're now understanding these links between insulin resistance and our health. And they're starting to broaden this grasp of how deep insulin resistance hits us. Now, 93% of us have some type of metabolic disorder, according to a 2022 study. And that means that 93% of us are already having a problem with insulin. And that's telling. Why? Because it's not that our genetics have changed, it's that our food has changed. They've stripped out things like fiber. So back to the system. This tea that I have every morning, and this one is almost gone already, I just sip on it throughout the morning. You don't have to drink it right away. In fact, sipping on it helps you tolerate the high amount of nutrients in it better, and it just keeps your hunger shut down throughout the day. Oh, I hope so, Terrell. And so like I go Monday, Wednesday, Friday and educate about insulin resistance. We'll talk about some of the other diseases and disorders throughout the time together. So just keep joining me live and hopefully you'll learn more. But what changed everything for me was just this system. The tea that I drink in the morning, again, mental energy, mental clarity, but it also improves your physical energy and clarity. Hi, buddy. I'm almost done. Come here. My grandson. Whoops, I got a landmine out here for him. Come here. Come here. He's leaving and going to Kentucky in a couple of days, and so he's spending 3 days with Nana because I won't get to see him for 3 months. Yeah, yeah. So he just woke up, and we're gonna go spend the rest of the day together. So you guys won't see me much till Monday. All right. Terrell, I'll try to remember to invite you. Let me screenshot this. So now here you guys go. We have this thing that's giving us energy, clarity, satiety, but it's giving us vitamins and minerals. It's giving us components that help with getting energy into our brain because one of the components in it, chlorogenic acids, are one of the only things that can cross the blood-brain barrier. And that's what gives us energy. Think about, oh, he just pushed me off my pedestal. Serotonin and dopamine are affected by all of this. Now, the second piece of it, and I want to get through this, is this pre-meal drink. Now, don't do all of that, dude. What did you do to me? Okay. The second part of it is this pre-meal drink. That's 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers. Don't, honey, that's not funny. That help me feel full as I'm eating and help keep me satiated much longer. But what really is happening with it is that it's slowing down the blood sugars hitting my bloodstream. It's regulating how much of those blood sugars actually even get into my bloodstream, and it's helping me with fats getting into my bloodstream. But it has vitamins and minerals in it as well. So now it's helping my metabolism overall. Combine those two things with some shortened intermittent fasting, and you're going to start to see results. So the tools not only help me with the blood sugars and the fats, but they help me sustain fasting. And by the way, they do not break a fast. Neither one of these break a fast. So this pre-meal drink, hold on a second, babe, is what I drink before I eat. Now, I have more than one a day. The system comes with one, but I love fiber for all the benefits that it does for our system. Fiber helps your gut microbiome. It helps your immune system. It helps keeping inflammation down in your system. So This fiber was in that packet. I just open up the packet, put it in my bottle. This is more water than I usually like to add, but we're going to go with it. So I just push this in here like that. And by the way, this is made for this purpose so that it fits in the neck of a bottle. And let's hope I don't drop it. So now the fiber's in there. I'm just going to shake it up that many times. That's it. And then I'm going to drink it down. Now I'll show you the bottle in a minute, but what's happening is this is going to thicken up pretty quick. Especially when it hits the enzymes in my gut. I'm in a fasted state. But what this does is it feeds those probiotics in my gut. And it helps me, as those feed, it creates short chain fatty acids. Those short chain fatty acids help to cue ketones. So now, actually what I did was give my fast a boost. But I also helped have a very acidic gut. It helps with the acidity in my gut. It helps with my nausea. It helps with a number of other things. So I drink it even when I'm not eating, if I start to experience those things, understanding I'm giving myself something good for my body. Brahma, starting Unicity today, you've been taking inositol. Yes, you can take inositol with this. Inositol, there are components of inositol berberine in this system. So, you guys, those of you who have been told berberine, some of the fibers in this, there's berberine components in it. So this just gives you 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers, not just gives it to you. That's important in helping all of this. And that was a great question, Brahma, because here's the thing. This is real food products. It's not some medication that has a ton of interactions with other stuff. There are no interactions with your medications with this. So if you are on medications and you need to, and you want to start this and hopefully get off of 13 medications, 13 is what I was on, you can do that right alongside of this. Okay, it's not going to hurt. It's gluten-free, it's halal, no animal products, it's all plant products. So there you have it. Vegans and carnivores can have it alike if you just want to give that boost to your gut. Now, I had that this morning because I was feeling some nausea. So that's going to be fine. He's here. I'll have my lunch in a couple of hours, about noon, because that'll get me to the 16 hours. And then I'll have steak or chicken or something for dinner with possibly a salad or vegetables. But each time I'll have this first. But here's the thing. In a fasted state, this does not spike my insulin, but it does help me produce more ketones. I've measured it on myself, and in a fasted state, this has at some points doubled my ketones when I'm fasting. So no worries about breaking the fast, but every benefit of feeling full, blood sugar regulation, all the other stuff from this. Understand that 80% of your immune cells are held in your gut. So I like to keep my gut healthy by using this because now my immune cells are more healthy and stronger. I rarely get sick from colds and stuff. Things like allergens that have little spiky things, that can wear me down. But I rarely catch colds and whatnot like everybody else does. And that's changed because I used to get it all the time because my immune system is better because I'm adding the fiber in. So that little boy, this is what is that again? Oh, okay. So it's the system I use. You guys, if you're interested in it, as I forget, I get so into teaching that I forget to tell you where to get the product, right? So if you tap on my profile up here, you're going to get to a link that's going to allow you to purchase the product, which is 2 teas, a tea that I have in the morning, this afternoon. It doesn't matter when. I'll have another one just to help sustain my energy. The fiber, you only have to do 1 a day, but I do it every time I eat. And I love what it's done for my gut. I had severe IBS. I no longer suffer with that. Just tap on the link in my profile. That'll bring you to my landing page. And my landing page, let's see if I can get to my landing page. Anyway, you'll find it there and you'll find the link there. I have way too many notifications coming in because I'm on live later than I intended to be. But that's it, you guys. It costs about $5 a day. So you're getting the tea and you're getting the fiber that are going to help you address your insulin resistance. My diabetes is completely reversed. My hypertension is completely reversed. It's 112/70 now. My joints being deteriorated have stopped. I've gotten rid of my edema, my neuropathy. I've lost 55 pounds. My memory is better. My eyesight's better. My hair is longer than it has been in years. I need to go get it cut. But all of that health happened when I got my insulin resistance under control. And as simple as tapping on that link. Yes, Terrell, ask the question. I love answering questions because this is about you. What did I shake up? This is the fiber. So if you'll see, and you can already see it kind of coating the bottle, that's happening in my gut. So this is 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers, some plant sterols that help with your heart rate, and vitamins and minerals. That's what I just shook up. Now the tea is very much similar. The tea you mix in hot or cold water. I send you directions on how to do all of this, and so does the company. If you purchase, by the way, I've seen people, and I have not done as good a job of explaining this, but when you purchase, you want to use the subscription because you can cancel out at any time. But here in the US, the subscription saves you $10 off the product and it saves you paying shipping. So that ends up being about $25 you save by putting it on subscription. Try it. Don't like it. You can cancel it at any time. It's not like they're going to say, oh, you have to do this for 6 months. So just save yourself the money and do it on subscription, because then next month you're going to get a notice 5 days before it comes out and they're going to say, good news, this is coming out. You want to change anything, do anything, you can do that. But it's important to order from somebody like me so that you're getting connected directly to the company. Amazon, eBay, Walmart, there's a lot of pirated products, expired products, and you always pay more. When you order through my link, you're getting the 90-day money-back guarantee. So Terrell, if you decide to do this, do it for 90 days. Because at the end of 90 days, if your A1C is not down, if all of these things aren't gotten better, then you're going to just call the company and they'll give you your money back. Now, when you go to your doctor, do they say, if you follow my advice for 90 days and you don't feel better, I'll give you your money back? No, they don't. Does any medication you've ever taken say, if you don't get better from this, not just that your symptoms are masked, but if you don't get better from this, you're going to get your money back? No, they don't tell you that either. So try it. You'll get the low price guarantee. You'll get coaching from me. You'll get all the 90-day money back guarantee and all of that. So it's just a tea in the morning, a tea in the afternoon, and a pre-meal drink. For me, it's before I eat anything. Terrell, your question. Okay, but you only have one kidney. Okay, so that's a great question, Carol. This does not negatively impact your kidney. I don't know what happened to your other kidney. I'm assuming that I'm going to make a big assumption and assume that it was lifestyle and not injury. If it was injury, either way, it doesn't matter. What I want to tell you is that your kidneys are highly affected by insulin resistance as well. So if you lost one, and they have not been able to explain why, or it wasn't due to an injury, it was likely due to insulin resistance. So if you want to save your kidney that's left and give it the best chance of working, get your insulin resistance under control. And this can help you do that via the pathway of helping your insulin resistance. I have a guy who had stage 3 kidney disease, was getting, it had cancer. So he was getting ready for prep for surgery to be on dialysis. And he said, wait, hold up, I'm going to give this system a try. He now no longer has stage 3 kidney disease, never had to go on dialysis. Now, cancer is a word that I've been told to not talk about because it's so polarizing, but I'm going to talk about it. So if we went back to that slide that I had where we were talking about diseases and disorders. So kidney, ovarian, prostate, intestinal cancers, all of those are very highly linked to insulin resistance. There's a lot of research out there. So am I going to tell you this is going to cure cancer? No. But via the pathway of keeping insulin resistance under control, it may lessen the likelihood of that happening to you. And actually, there's been a lot of studies, people that have said yes. In fact, there's an oncologist in Toronto who is treating one of the gals who's on the system and did not know she already had colon cancer. And he has seen such a change in her and knows that the rate at which her cancer grew was slowed because she was on the system, that he's told her he would rather her be out in front of his office talking about this to every one of his patients than the people who were out there selling Ensure or whatever it is they had. So we have oncologists, cardiologists, neurologists, and endocrinologists all now using the system. In fact, there was a training last night where a PhD pharmacist was talking about the difference between this and medications. And she now even is believing in this. And we've had multiple pharmacists come on and say, this is not doing the damage to your body that medications are. In fact, it's helping. The one that is left is stage 3 kidney failure. I'm not a doctor. I cannot diagnose. I wanna start with that. But Terrell, to me, it would sound like addressing insulin resistance is going to be something that could very positively help you. Okay. So try the system. If you have questions, you text me. By the way, I have two numbers. One is my professional number, one is my personal number, but you may get text from me on either one. But text me. I will call you. I will give you answers. I will help you and support you along the way, because in the end, I want people to feel better and not just be masking symptoms while they're getting worse. So that's what the system does. Another, just wonder, is it okay to drink, to have alcohol? A number of people still have alcohol. At the beginning, I did. I don't drink much. I had alcohol like when we would go on these amazing trips that the company sponsors. Um, but I choose not to do alcohol because I I know how much it's affecting my liver and my kidneys. And at the stage I'm at with all the damage that has already been done, I'm just opting out of alcohol. But yes, you can have it. Here's the interesting thing. When you have this before you drink the alcohol, if it's one of those alcohols that does spike your blood sugar, this will help reduce that by up to 37%. Can reduce a blood sugar spike by up to 37%, the one that I just drank. Honey is also something I would limit, just because, again, you need fiber wrapped around any type of sugar, and honey is a very high glycemic food, meaning it's going to spike your insulin and your sugars higher. Don't drink. Okay, good. If it's to drink honey. I would skip the honey. There's some great components in honey, but if you're insulin resistant, that's just going to be spiking your insulin more and causing more of the other problems. Not bashing honey, I'm just saying in an insulin resistant state, it's probably not the best thing for you to drink. Okay. So I don't even, like, I used to buy real raw maple syrup, and I still do, and I don't have it very often. If I have pancakes with this little guy, I will do that from time to time, but I just stay away from refined sugars. Yes. So do you know that the white sugar that we eat is contained in a cane, which is highly fibrous, and the sugar itself that we're eating as white sugar has been so refined that all the fibers around the sugar itself are stripped. The sugar naturally is not this white powder that we eat. It's got a lot of fiber interlaced in there. So fiber is key. You guys, I still have cakes and candies and cupcakes and whatever once in a while, right? I just have this before I do to help reduce the spike in sugar. But I also know that the more I eat those things, the more detriment I'm doing to my system by high amounts of it. So as much as you can, stay away from sugar, but I'm not telling you you have to be a Puritan and not have it. If you're going to have sugar, though, that's when you want to have a second one of these, or just, yeah, just avoid it or have one of these. It will help that blood sugar spike. The pink, use the fake pink packages. So that's probably a better than the sugar, but stevia or monk fruit is probably a better choice for you. If you can switch to those, that would be better. Okay, guys, that's it for today. I gotta go take care of this boy. It sounds like something happened. But a tea in the morning, a tea in the afternoon, and a fiber before I eat. That's all I do. Reverse my blood sugars, reverse my diabetes, reverse my hypertension, and got me off of 13 medications. You guys, we're on a mission. 93% of us are insulin resistant. We would love to help at least 1% of people around the world get better from this devastating disorder. Science is figuring it out more and more every day how much this is really causing a number of our health issues. And I want to hear your story as we go along the journey, Terrell, because I would love to know that kidney that you have left starts to get better, and that some of that, because I know the one thing I know, is all the stuff. I don't have kidney problems, but when you have these type of problems, because I now have a heart that's been damaged from years of it's terrifying. It's terrifying. It's debilitating. For me, it makes me sometimes feel less of a worthy human. Whatever, those are all BS stories we have in our head. But those things are terrifying. And looking at losing the only kidney you have left, that's not fun. And so let's see if we can help you out. And I'd love to do that. Terrell, you're so thankful. You're so thankful. I'm so thankful for you being part of this live and helping everybody else by the questions you've asked. Okay, I'm gonna go take care of the baby, and we'll see you guys Monday. Okay, and Terrell, I'll try to get you on that list to notify you when I go live. You guys have a beautiful day, and thank you all for your input, your comments, your questions. That's what we all thrive on. Oh, Terrell, you made my day too. So thank you. All right, guys, we'll see you later. Have a good day.